Compressing a vocal can be a difficult thing to get right. There's a few different schools of thought on how you should approach it, and I want to discuss a few of them here and show you the different kind of options that you've got. I want to use something that's going to sound smooth. In this particular track, I need the vocal to be reined in slightly, but I don't want it to get over compressed. So I'm going to use the smoothest compressor that I really know and that I have, and that's the Mew from Pulsar Audio. You can check it out down below if you like it. This is a couple of different ways for compressing a vocal, and we're going to then combine them to use each of them on their own merits. So let's just jump in and see what we can do. So we can see from the waveform here, this is a pretty, it's not an aggressive vocal, but it's quite a dynamic vocal. So let me just take all the compression off and just take a little listen to it.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me. I'm sorry that I'll never get to see you grow. I couldn't tell you at the time, I'll make you see that I'm sorry to you both, but I won't be coming home.
Okay, so there's pretty obviously some fairly loud sections, but then there's some bits that kind of tail off a little bit as well. And there's two types of compression that are going to help us with this. The first style is going to be using a fast attack, so we're just really chopping off those transients. The second is a far gentler approach where we're kind of gently hugging the whole sound. And then thirdly, we're going to use a little from column A, a little from column B. We're going to do a little bit of both and see how level we can get this. So let's check it out. First off then, I've got the Mew here, and I've actually got this on limit mode. Now it may seem a little bit crazy to put a limiter on a vocal, but as we can see from the manual, it's actually when we're limiting this, if we go down to the section here, limit mode is only at 4:1. So really that's just a relatively strong compressor. And this is great for getting rid of those transients. So let's just bring up the input and bring down the output together just to bring it up to that threshold. So the way this compressor works is you can do it in two ways. You can either set your input and output at kind of a standard level and bring the threshold down, or you can bring the input up and hold shift, and that will bring the output down and kind of leave the threshold where it is. That will give you a bit of a warmer sound, a bit more of the kind of sound of the compressor. The attack here I've got almost at its fastest setting. The manual, as we'll see, it goes from about 10 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds. So we're not quite at 10 milliseconds, but we're pretty fast. And the release is on fast as well. So I just want it to clamp down on those transients and then release more or less straight away. So let's hear what's going on here.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me.
So here it's just getting this section here. If you watch as it comes up to that bit, you'll see it's getting some gain reduction.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me.
In modern mode.
I'm sorry that I'll never get to see you grow.
Okay, so we're getting about 6 dB of gain reduction, but importantly, it doesn't really sound massively compressed. We're clearly getting rid of some of the level, but it's not the kind of smashy compressor that you might know from like 1176 style stuff. It's smooth. It's really smooth. And this is really what we're aiming for in this track. We're just getting rid of the transients just a touch. And let's see how that looks on a waveform. So here's essentially the bounce in place. And you can see that at this section here where the transient is really jumping up, we're bringing that down fairly considerably. And secondly here as well. But that's good. The other thing to understand though is that it's not really affecting any of the quieter sections. So this section here is not really getting touched. You can see it's not really changed there. This section, nothing's really getting affected by that because it's just dealing with the peaks. So the first way that we can do it is to just get rid of those peaks. If everything is fairly level and it's just those few loud sections in the vocal that we want to get rid of, then that's going to be a great way to approach it. Go for fast attack, fast release, just clamp down the transients and then straight away come back down again and you're going to deal with them. But the second one is kind of a nice, gentle approach that we can use to get rid of some level on the entire thing. So I'm just going to hide that track just so we don't get confused by it. So the second one that I'm going to bring in is very, very different. If I go into normal mode again, we've got the attack on the slowest, we've got release about midway, And here I'm bringing the threshold down. So I'm actually going to be dealing with more of a signal, going to be compressing more of a signal, but I've got this on the compression setting, which is about 1.5 to 1. So it really is very gentle, and you're going to hear that it's far more gentle. But the thing is, on those peaks, it's going to have to be compressing quite a lot in order for the threshold to be low enough to compress the rest of the stuff as well. So let's just take a listen.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me. I'm sorry that I'll never get to see you grow.
So on this section, just here, it's not a loud section, and the first compressor that we used, the fast attack, wasn't touching it because the threshold wasn't low enough. But now we are gently kind of hugging that sound. So let's have a look at the waveform of that as well. I've got the release midway, the attack slow. This is on the compression setting, and I'm driving this a touch, but I'm just really bringing that threshold down so it's compressing the whole thing and leveling it off. So this one here then is one we've just seen, the slow attack mid-release when compared to the fast attack fast release. So on the very transient sections, the very louder sections, it's not bringing them down quite as much as the fast attack was. You can see that this is not quite as loud as this. So the slow attack is not bringing stuff down as much, and being on that compressor setting as opposed to the limiter, it's a far, far gentler form of compression. But what we'll find is that because we've got louder sections, we're not wanting to compress those as much. So we're not able to bring the threshold down enough to really deal with these quieter sections. You'll see that these quieter sections, again, are kind of getting compressed a little bit. They're a little bit lower, but it's not being dealt with as much as we'd perhaps like it to. And that's why having a combination of the two is actually really important. So let's get rid of these two for a start. Let's just listen to this with both of them. So the first one that I've got is the fast attack and fast release. So fast attack, fast release on the limit setting. And the second one is the one that we just heard. So this is with the slower attack and the kind of mid release, but on the compression setting. What I'm going to do is bring this threshold all the way up to maximum, so it's not really compressing at all, and then just bring that threshold down until it kind of feels about right, until it feels like we're bringing up those quieter sections. The first compressor is going to deal with the loud stuff, and then this compressor, the slow attack compressor, is going to deal with the quieter stuff. So let's just dial that in.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me. I'm sorry that I'll never get to see you grow. I couldn't tell you at the time.
So you'll see in this section, if I take loop off for a moment, the fast attack compressor was dealing with all the transient rich stuff, but this compressor, when we've got the quieter sections, it's only this one actually affecting them. So just take a look. Let's go from the start again. You'll hear on the loud sections, you can see these loud sections here, this first compressor is acting. You'll see the VUs moving. On the quieter sections, maybe around here, it's only the second compressor that's actually acting.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me. I'm sorry that I'll never get to see you grow. I couldn't tell you at the
So on the quieter sections, the slow attack, actual gluey kind of compressor is affecting stuff, but the real transient focus compressor is not. So if I bounce that in place again, we're going to see something quite different. So this one here is both compressors at once. We can see that the transients are being reined in. So these louder sections in the original are being dealt with. They're being brought down. But if you look at it from a kind of holistic point of view, everything just looks a little bit more together, a little bit more as one. On the fast attack version down the bottom here, you'll see that this one, there's still a decent amount of difference between the loud stuff and the quiet stuff, especially this down here. But although we're not really bringing all this stuff up that much, the whole thing just seems a little more leveled, and waveforms can only tell you so much. If we just listen to it, we'll listen to the original and then we'll listen to the compressed version with both of those compressors engaged. The whole thing just feels a little bit more together, and the whole thing just feels a little richer. It feels a lot more leveled, and when we bring it into the track, you'll hear that it's not kind of poking out as much as it once was.
I'm sorry all you have now are memories of me. I'm sorry that I'll never get to see you grow. I couldn't tell you at the time, I'll make you see that I'm sorry to you both, but I won't be coming home.
Just feels like it's kind of gluing in there. Let's take a listen to it in the track and just hear exactly what the difference is.
Sorry, all you have now are memories of me. Sorry that I'll never get to see you grow. Couldn't tell you at the time, I'll make you see. I'm sorry to you both, but I won't be coming home.
The version where we've compressed it twice is dealing with two problems in one, just by using that kind of serial compression. We're dealing with the transients with one compressor, and then we're dealing with the overall kind of warmth and togetherness with another compressor. What's important here is if we don't deal with the transients first, and then we try to just apply the second compressor, we're just going to get over compression on those transients. Because we're trying to deal with things in two stages, we're using one tool for one job and another tool for another job. The first compressor is really taking those transients off in limit mode. Remember, it's only 4:1 compression. And the second one, 1.5:1, is really kind of gluey. And even at high settings, we're not actually going to get much audible compression. Everything just feels a little bit tighter, a little bit more glued together. So hopefully that's been useful for you, and a couple of different ways you can approach vocal compression to really help it tuck in and really help things tie together. Using two compressors in series is something that I've always found useful, and I think gets a much more natural result. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Take care.